Hold that thought, honey. There's something you need to know. Hello, friends. I'm Magnolia Jackson Pickett Burnside, but you can call me Tonight. I'm sure all of you are wondering, as is Stu over there, how a woman of my beauty, class, and refinement could possibly be single for Valentine's Day. A travesty, I must say. Well, there have been suitors, and even a husband or three, but I guess it takes a special man to handle all of this. Well, let's start at the beginning. They say the first time you get married is for love, and boy was I smitten with Jebediah Jackson from Jackson, Mississippi. I was just a young, naive little flower when I met Jebediah at the county fair. He was tall, dark, rugged, but what had me hooked was that general and two colonials he kept down in his Levi's. Trust me, if they were serving during the Civil War, things would have turned out differently. Anyway, it was a glorious affair. So in love, engaged within a month, married before year's end. We thought we could take on the world. Well, I wasn't the only one that became dickmatized by Mr. Jackson. Every little filly living in Jackson got a piece of Jackson. Well, I have always had a good reputation and wasn't about to become a divorcee. Luckily, I learned more than one way to dispose of unwanted baggage during my cotillion days, and of course, I would do it with style. Ladies, I must inform you that there is no need to get your hands dirty while taking out the trash. Why ruin a perfectly good pair of gloves? Why, no. All you need to do is plan a picnic. Hoe cakes, blackberry jam, a jug of sweet tea, the house wine of the South, and a mason jar oozing with honey, spun from the magnolia blossoms themselves. Now, before you get intimate and slather every inch of his manhood with that liquid gold, be sure to remove that EpiPen from his satchel. All you have to do is whack that nearby beehive with your pocketbook, and those fuzzy little bees will do the rest. Welcome, Magnolia Jackson, widow. Now, I'm a lady with needs, both physical and financial. And let's just say I'd rather fry the bacon than bring it home, if you catch my drift. Mama always said, never do anything except for money. After all, women cannot live on dick alone. So with Mama's voice ringing in my ear, I headed down to Lafayette, Louisiana, to one of the last remaining plantations in the Deep South, owned by Mr. Pearlie Pickett. Now, the Picketts were old money, more Vanderbilt than Clampett, and they truly had more money than God. Let's just say that Pearlie could have made the Louisiana Purchase with his weekly allowance, with enough left over to buy his very own Kardashian. That is a rare breed of long-haired dog, isn't it? Anyway, Pearlie didn't know he needed me. But after tasting my sweet pecan pie, who could resist? Kate Middleton herself would have been jealous of my wedding. You want to talk about deluxe? My pedicure for that big day cost more than my first car, and I wasn't even wearing open-toed shoes. And I had no idea on this earth that Donatella Versace had her own line of Tampax. They were even monogrammed. Anyway, the wedding was fabulous, but the honeymoon? Well, let's just say that I found out that my future wasn't as secure as I had hoped. We spent months traveling around the world. Milan, Dubai, Buenos Aires, Detroit. But it was in Paris when everything came crashing down. After having a private candlelight dinner at Versailles, Mr. Pearlie Pickett felt it was the right opportunity to tell me that he had been switching out my birth control with Tic Tacs. He went on and on about passing his family fortune on to a son that would carry on the family name and take control of all of his assets. Now, I was not about to allow this man to give away my fortune, nor allow some bastard child to wreck my honeysuckle bush on the way out. Fortunately, I already had a plan cooking. I told Mr. Pickett that I just couldn't wait to bear the fruit of his loins, and that tonight's game of naked leapfrog needed to be extra special. Now, I always traveled with a few whips, chains, and ball gags. After all, I was a Girl Scout. And I had just the necktie for my precious little Pearlie. The great thing about erotic asphyxiation is that just a few seconds can mean the difference between When Harry Met Sally and Weekend at Bernie's. I think it was during my favorite sexual position, the butter churner, when Pearlie's face started turning the color of Mama's blackberry cobbler. And can you believe the asshole had the nerve to die before I achieved orgasm? Huh, some people. Welcome, Magnolia Jackson Pickett, widow. Now, wearing black day in and day out can be so tiresome. And you can only spend so much money on baubles and booze before you get a little lonely. So I did the only thing I knew to do. I went to the house of the Lord and got down on my knees to do what I do best. Pray, you buffoons. God, like a bunch of horny middle schoolers. Anyway, I prayed to the Lord to send me a friend. Someone that I could spend the rest of my life with. No sooner could I genuflect than Mr. Beauregard Burnside walked into the chapel. Be still, my Dixie heart. We became the best of friends, went to church together every Sunday, and soon thereafter we got hitched. We were so happy and so in love. Now, being the good little Southern girl that I am, I always have a flask of bourbon in my handbag for medicinal purposes. Well, one day when Beau and I were headed to the Piggly Wiggly, I got me a little nip, just in case I ran into any of those church gossips by the discount meat. Beauregard noticed my vial of liquid courage and said to me, Mags, he always called me Mags, he said, Mags, I think you should lay off the bourbon. The coroner said that it was a heart attack, but I have the sinking feeling that someone else was looking out for me. The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Welcome, Magnolia Jackson Pickett Burnside, widow. So, gentlemen, this Valentine's Day I am without an escort. My dance card's empty, my bed is cold, and my IUD is going to waste. Unless there is a man out there that is brave enough, bold enough, and big enough to seduce this sweet Georgia peach. Someone who knows how to get things done by means of torture. Someone that feels uncomfortable watching Will and Grace, but has a daughter that eats pussy for breakfast. Someone who has had 3 heart attacks, a quadruple bypass, and a full heart transplant, but just won't die. And most importantly, someone who can shoot a man in the face in front of an entire nation and get away with it. Ladies and gentlemen, the only man for me, I give you the 46th Vice President of the United States, Mr. Dick Cheney. Hold that thought, honey. There's something you need to know. Hello, friends. I'm Magnolia Jackson Pickett Burnside, but you can call me tonight. I'm sure all of you are wondering, as is Stu over there, how a woman of my beauty, class, and refinement could possibly be single for Valentine's Day. A travesty, I must say. Well, there have been suitors.